Hello, my name is Mike. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about generational wealth. Generational wealth is self-explanatory. It's basically wealth that you're able to build for yourself and the next generation and the next generation and the next generation. It's not often that you see the average person think, I'm going to build wealth that outlives me, or wealth for my kids and my grandkids. But just imagine if everybody thinks this way. I think we'll all be rich. But here I want to talk to you about the concept and see how we can all hopefully think this way, and not just think this way, but actually take action towards building generational wealth. Let's go back in a day. If you were living maybe 5 centuries ago, to build generational wealth, you either had to have some type of connection to the people who were ruling the town, say in a kingdom, or if you were, I guess, when you think of the hierarchy of the society, if you had access to power or you were an expert in the trade, chances are you'd be able to build some wealth for yourself. Or if you own some land, then the best way to build generational wealth is to have a bunch of kids to work that land. And then once you pass on, that asset passes on to your kids, and hopefully they can pass it on to their kids. Well, that still holds true today, except in 2020 or 2021, whenever you're watching this video, to build generational wealth is 10 times more easier than it would be if you lived 5 centuries ago, because we live in a capitalist society. I'm not going to try and go into politics here. Whatever concept or economic concept that you believe in, I'm a capitalist. I'm not ashamed to say that. And the reason why I love capitalism is because it allows the average man or woman to go from zero to actually building wealth in their lifetime. And I think it creates opportunities. It may not be equal, but it does create the opportunity to be able to do it in a short period of time. Let me explain. In a capitalist society, you have markets, you have a credit system. Credit system basically allows you to be able to build or buy things if you can't necessarily afford to pay for the full item. That's what credit is. So say, for example, if I wanted to buy an asset that costs $1 million, I don't necessarily have to have $1 million to actually own that asset. I can borrow the money, pay some obviously as down payment, and I can own that asset, and I can work that asset to cash flow, or hopefully it appreciates, and I'm able to pay down my debt and then one day own it fully. Here's a perfect example of building generational wealth in today's day and age. Trump. I know it's a very controversial name, but it's the perfect example. Let me get to the story. So when I say Trump, you think of Donald Trump. You don't think of any other faces but that face. But the name Trump actually came before Donald Trump, and the wealth that Donald Trump is enjoying today with his kids and his grandkids, it didn't start with him. Let's go back memory lane. So if you didn't know this little piece of history, Donald Trump's father was the first to actually build wealth in that family, and the machine that he created years and decades ago is what his kids and his grandkids and his great-grandkids are going to continue enjoying. Donald Trump's father was also a developer in New York, and the way he made his wealth was he built affordable housing and apartments for the city. If you don't know how that works, generally as a developer, you work with what we now know as HUD. HUD is a public or federal assistance program that basically doles out contracts to the private sector. A guy like Donald Trump's father will go to the government. They would borrow him some money or give him some contracts to build X amount of units. He has his own budget, and he works with the money he gets or the assistance he gets from the government, and he's able to build this apartment complex. He did this not once, not twice, but many, many times. With that asset, he was able to build wealth to take care of his family, but more importantly, to pass on to his kids. And the most important thing Donald Trump's father did was he had a trust. So all of the asset that he was able to build and own throughout his lifetime, he was able to put those assets in a trust. And once he was gone, that trust now belongs to the kids. And we've all heard the infamous story of Donald Trump saying that his dad borrowed him $1 million. Well, the truth is, he got a whole lot more than $1 million to build his empire. And the story goes, after the dad passed, Trump and his siblings put together their trust and all the assets in there, and they sold it for X amount of dollars. Now, it was a lot of millions they got out of that deal, and they split it, and everyone sort of went and enjoyed their lives. And Trump used his to build what you now know as the Trump empire. But the point I'm trying to drag out of this is, now you look at a Donald Trump, and more importantly, you look at his kids, and then you look at his grandkids. Guess what? They're all gonna die rich. And not only that, the funds and the asset and the wealth that he has, and now that his children has while he's still alive, when he passes on, when his kids passes on, that trust is still going to remain, because every single generation will have a trust that's going to outlive them. And that's one of the most important tools that a capitalist economy provides for you. It's a legal tool where you've worked your ass off. You've built this, and this, but ultimately you're not going to live to enjoy for 2,000 years, and your kids are there, and hopefully they'll have their own kids. So you put all that asset into a trust fund. It's a myth that you have to be ultra wealthy to be able to create a trust fund. Anybody can create a trust fund. It is a little bit more on the expensive side, but you can create a trust fund for your kids. Not only a trust fund, you can also create a living trust. A living trust is basically a will that doesn't need probate courts to get into it after you're dead. Okay, let me explain. Now, if I'm moving too fast for you, please pause this video, perhaps take a pen and paper and take some notes. Trust funds, we'll leave that to one side, because again, it's believed that it's only for the ultra rich, but it really isn't. You can create a trust fund for your kids at any point if you have the right lawyer to do it for you. But let's talk about a living trust. A living trust is actually more affordable to create. And what a living trust does is, basically, you, while you're still alive, you get in touch with the lawyer and you draft up your will, and basically draft up everything that you own or potentially will own, and say, okay, this is how I want this wealth to be shared once I'm gone. Within that trust, you would have the beneficiary, which are the people who are going to collect or benefit from that trust, and you have somebody who's going to execute that trust for you. You name it while you're still alive. And the importance of this tool is that once you're gone, you don't need a court to have to decide how things work. Even when you have a will, believe it or not, you can write a will today, and when you're gone, a probate court will still get involved, and because somebody may want to claim this or claim that. But if you don't want any court system involved in how your wealth is being distributed, you have a living trust. And whatever you say and put in that living trust will be executed as such. And so if you don't have one today, or you're not thinking about one, it's something I will look into. So that's one way to pass on your wealth to your next generation. Another way, basic, simple way, is if you have a W-2 job right now, I recommend, highly recommend, that you start collecting real estate. Again, I started by using Trump as an example, and real estate is not the only driver or the only vehicle to building wealth, but really it's one of the few things that will never grow old in terms of appreciation. Owning a piece of land will always appreciate. And the best part about buying real estate in this day and age, like I said, is the fact that you don't need to have all the money. If you wanted to purchase a piece of property that costs, say, $100,000 or $200,000, you don't need to have that kind of money sitting in the account. You may only have $6,000 or $10,000. And with that small amount to use as your down payment, you can go ahead and purchase a piece of property that costs 10 times as much or 20 times as much. That's the beauty about having a credit system. Obviously, you have a strategy where you're not just buying a property to live there, but rather you're buying this property to use it as a cash flowing asset. And then you duplicate. And you duplicate and you duplicate until you have many more. That's how simple it is to build wealth. But again, that's involving real estate. Now, let's assume that you have a business, or you started a business, and that business is doing well. It's taking care of you and your family. One way you can build wealth with that is obviously keep the machine running, but more importantly, always build something that you either have an exit strategy where you can sell off one day and retire or move to the next thing, or you put good people, hopefully people even smarter than you, to run it for you. Basically, you try to set up a system that works in your absence, where if you're not there, it's still running. That machine is still running. That's the best thing you can do for any businesses that you start, where you don't have to be involved on a daily basis. But let's say you don't have a business, or you're not even an entrepreneur. You work a normal salary job or a W-2 job. As I said, one way is start picking up real estate, but also you can start opening accounts and invest your money in the markets. Now, there's a lot of videos online that you can watch in terms of stocks, and I'm not going to try to be some financial advisor to tell you what stock is performing or not. In future, I'll probably make a video of things that I have in my portfolio that you can invest in, but obviously you do it at your own risk. But one way you can start growing wealth right now is to put your money in the market. What I mean by that is, you have a budget, you know what your living expenses are, you know how much you're spending for vacation or your car, whatever the case may be. Set up some money, even if it's $50 or a few $100 every single month. And the reason why I recommend this, I actually even recommend this more than I recommend saving. Except you're saving to buy, say, a piece of real estate property. Don't save just to have money sitting. If you have your money sitting in a standard savings account, and guess what? It's losing value. When you account for inflation rate, for every dollar that you put away, every year that dollar becomes 97 cents. So the best thing you can do is actually put that money to work and let it grow. So put some money aside. You can download Robinhood app. Is a great app for any beginner. Myself, I'm not a stock trader. I'm not a day trader, but I do have investment in the stock market. So you can use the Robinhood app and also open a Vanguard account, or any accounts where you can open a Roth IRA, 401k, whatever the case may be. Each month that you put either $50 or 100 or a few $100, you just put it towards that account and you pick up new stocks, add more to your portfolio, and compound interest start to do its thing. If you don't understand compound interest, that's a video for another day, but look it up on Google while you still can. Once compound interest start doing its thing, that few $100 that you're putting away every month, or again, even if it's just $50, it grows. It grows. Let's say your money grows at 7% every year. By the time it's a decade or 2 decades, that money has gotten to this much from this much. Let's say now it's 10% return every year, or 15 or 20. It's just insane the amount of money that you can have in 10 to 20 years if you put it in the market. But that's just for you. If you want to build wealth or let money grow for your kids, the same concept. You can open another account for your child where you manage it and you put money in that account, also put it in the market and let that money grow. And then when they come of age, say 18 or 21, they can have access to the money and do whatever they please with it. Hopefully you've taught them some great financial lessons and they don't go and squander that money however they want. So there are different ways for you to build wealth without necessarily having millions of dollars or owning, a business that's making tons of millions every year. But if you do get to that point where you do have a bunch of millions of dollars, or you have a business that's doing very well, a trust fund is the absolute go-to. Now, the beauty about having a trust fund is, one, it outlives you. But guess what? It also outlives your kids. Let me give an example. Let's say you start a business today. It could be tech, could be manufacturing, whatever industry. And 5 years from now, you exit out of that business for $20 million. Say you put $10 million out of that, you put it towards starting a trust fund for your kids or your kid, however many you have. In 20, 30 years, when those kids come of age, okay, that money is already grown to however much through compound interest. Now, you put in the trust that your child will have access to this fund at, say, 35 years old. So when your child gets to be 35, they have access to that trust. But guess what? Your child does not have access to the 10 or 20 or 30 million dollars that's in there. They only have access to the interest that account is accruing every single month or every single year. So say an account that has $20 million in it, on a conservative basis, your child could be receiving as much as $250,000, $300,000 every single year. That's money that they didn't have to work for. It's just money that's there for them. The beauty about this is One, your kids are gonna have the freedom to do whatever they want with their lives. What I mean by that is they can choose to go into any careers that they want without necessarily thinking, oh, I need to make money through this. And so that type of freedom is, to me, priceless. When someone can just say, I'm gonna go help somebody, or I'm gonna go into a career where I may make 20 grand a year, but it's gonna do better for the society. You know what I mean? And that's because the reliance on having to make money, that problem has been taken care of by the trust that you created a few decades before. And that's the beauty of trust funds. It doesn't pay out the full however much is in there. It never pays out that much. It only pays in interest. And so what that means is that money will remain not just for your kids, but for their grandkids and their grandkids and their grandkids. So when you think of wealthy families, this is how that money stays in those families. And you can start building your machine today. The ultimate takeaway from this video is that I want you to start thinking about money markets. I want you to start thinking differently how you see wealth and how you think about building wealth, and not necessarily think about just you. Don't go buy a bunch of things, while you're still alive. Now I'm not saying don't take care of yourself or don't splurge if you've worked hard. What I'm saying is, rather than just buy things as soon as you get money, rather think about the next generation. If you're a parent, especially if you're a parent, think about how you want your kids' life to be easier or harder by the work that you do today. That's what I want you to start thinking about, and start thinking about generational wealth, because chances are, if you're able to leave something great for them, not just a legacy, but actual financial support, your kids are gonna find it much easier to go through life than somebody who doesn't have the same resources. And it's not a bad thing to be rich. It's not a bad thing for your kids to be rich. It's a great thing. And I'll end the video here. If you enjoyed this video and learned something, please give it a thumbs up. If this is your first time, be sure to subscribe with the notification bell on. Thank you for spending time with me, and I'll catch you on the next video. Peace.